Go. Connecting to the cloud, and off we go.
Right.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is David Go from the Institute of ICT Professionals, Ghana. Welcome to our monthly webinar. Today's webinar is on cybersecurity, corporate cybersecurity. We'll be talking about building a corporate phishing campaign on a very skinny budget. And our resource person is Mr. Stephen Asamoah. He sits in the United States. He's a regular panelist and contributor to our cybersecurity campaign. And today he's going to take us through a very interesting aspect of cybersecurity, how you can set up your own phishing campaign. So I don't have more details. The expert is here, so we go straight into action.
All right, thank you, David. And hey, everyone, thank you for having me today. As David said, I am a regular on IIPGH. We all have the same common goal, and the goal is to expand the foothold of cybersecurity in Ghana and all over Africa. So the little that we can do to help, whenever I'm invited, I try to share my knowledge and experience as far as cybersecurity is concerned. Again, my name is Stephen Kofi Asamoah, and this is a little bit of my background. I'm based off here in the US, and I concentrate more on offensive cybersecurity operation. Been doing this for over 12, 13 years now. Basically, my job is to simulate threat actors for organizations, trying to find attack vectors on how companies get compromised, trying to mimic how we can help organizations identify how they can be compromised. I've had most of my education here in the US, and my professional career has been here in the US as well. On today's presentation is going to be about phishing again. Oh man, this is going to David, do we have anything that we can have this thing like not show, keep showing here on my screen?
I'm handling it. I'll have to take out you as a host.
Okay, would that take my capabilities in being able to record, you think?
We just need to try it now and see. I don't think so.
Okay, all right, cool. Yeah, because this is going to keep popping up as the people are coming in.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So this is just brief background about myself. If you want to know more about me, we can chat later on after this session. David has my contact information. You can always reach out to him if you want to, talk to me. All right. So we are going to talk about phishing. But before we do that, I know most of you already understand what phishing is, but for the sake of those one or two people who may not understand or even know what it is when they see one, essentially, before we even dig into what phishing is, let's talk about social engineering, right? Social engineering is basically, techniques which are used by adversaries or anyone to take advantage of human nature, right? Anything that we can do to abuse our sense of human nature, that is what we call social engineering. It can be me lying to you to get your phone number. That it could be social engineering. It could be me trying to get into a building, which I don't have a permit, but I could do something to, work on your human nature of empathy. Me acting like I need help trying to get into the building. I'm holding laptops, coffee, I'm all dressed up and all those things to disguise myself as somebody important. And then that is me playing on your human nature. Wow. Yeah. JB, you need to mute everyone. Right. So that is what social engineering is. Now, phishing is a subset of social engineering. It's one aspect of social engineering. And phishing is basically when attackers or adversaries try to steal information from users or deliver misinformation. Some people would deliver like hate messages and all those things through information, through phishing, phishing campaign, or they may even deliver, malware or other software, to end users or to their victims through phishing attacks, right? So the types are several. We have the raw phishing, which is through email. Even within the email phishing campaign, we have different types. We have the mass email, which you send to a whole bunch of people. And then we have the spear phishing attack, which is you have a select few people that you want to target so you can be very effective at it. So you can look at an organization and say, hey, I just want to target the human resources, or I just want to target only the IT guys. So that is like, spear phishing attack. Whaling is when you try to attack the C level, like the senior management level, CEO, the CFO, the CIS, CISO, those kind of people is when you try to get to the executives, right? We have the vision, which is through telephone. You get some telephone calls. Some of you may have already experienced that sort of phishing. We have smishing, which is through text messages. You may receive a text message from your bank saying you have won, this amount of money, and it could be coming from attackers. So that is what we call the, smishing. We also have, friending or catfishing, which is social media, where people reach out to you, act like they know you. I actually have a friend of mine who fell for this particular type of attack on Facebook, where somebody reached out to him, like, she's a female who used to know my friend like way back. And then he developed this kind of relationship with my friend and eventually got into something messy with my friend, right? So that is another form of, phishing. So these are all things that we work or we do towards human nature to get into them, right? And as you guys can see, this is a typical phishing attack directed at people using the COVID-19 situation and also trying to represent WHO as if they are the ones, who are sending out these emails. And as you can see, this is a bit of an amateurish, right? But you understand that a whole lot of people might respond to this email, looking like it's coming from WHO. If you're not really somebody who wants to look deep into it, you wouldn't know it's coming from this person's email address. If you look, this person didn't bother enough to actually make this email look more convincing, because this may have been a mass email. So people who are not critical about looking to these things may have fallen to it. As you can see, they're using like tiny URL, which is a bit of an amateurish again, because if you want to conduct a very good phishing campaign, you may want to go a step further to make it look more legit and be able to like get more of your targets, which is what we're going to be discussing and demonstrating how we can build an efficient one. All right. So now that we are aware of and we know what phishing is, so now it comes the question. Some of you here who are decision makers, or even if you're not a decision maker, you ask yourself, well, why should I bother? Why should I care about phishing? As something that as an organization I may want to look into. Well, if we trace back to few years, so I would say, a couple of years, we have seen that phishing attack has been one of the main attack vector being used by adversaries to compromise organizations. If we read on major breaches for the past years, we have seen that attackers have moved away from the typical the 7 layers of of attacks, which is either through the network layer or through the application layer or some other forms, to now what we call the 8th layer. The 8th layer is like, when they attack a human being or when they attack human resources in organizations through phishing attacks, right? So that has been one of the biggest ways that organizations are now using to break into, attackers are using to break into organizations, right? And if you still don't believe it, well, statistically, about 90% of corporate breaches are now coming from phishing attacks. And even if you don't believe it, again, Google alone blocks about 18 million COVID-related malware or phishing campaigns per day. This is not just per week or a month or a year. This is per day. And now it's actually more than 80 million. 80 million is only related to COVID-19. I think it's about 100 million a day phishing coming from that, and Google alone blocks. So imagine other companies like Yahoo and other big companies, the numbers would go up if they were to report this as well. All right. So if you if any one of you follows the news trend lately, SANS Institute, which is one of the well-known, well-established cybersecurity training organization, actually got phished. Now, that is where you have to know that it is important as an organization to now add phishing campaign or phishing as exercises as part of your cybersecurity program to begin to actually, create an awareness within your organization. So these are some of the reasons why you might want to think about having phishing campaign as part of your awareness training within your organization. Now, somebody will tell you, we are too small to be attacked, which is something that we hear a lot from some organizations. They will tell you, well, why should I care? I mean, we only have about 10 people, or we only have about 200 people. We are not that big of an organization to be a target. Well, the thing is, if somebody wants to attack, let's say, a bigger organization, and they are not able to break in, they usually go around what we call the third-party organization. So even though you might be a smaller organization, one way or the other, you work with another organization, and that organization might be the main target of a cyber attack. But because the attacker may not be able to attack that particular company, and you are somebody who actually do business, I mean, your company does business with that main target, you are going to be breached, or the attacker is going to use you as a main point of entry, break into your network or was one way or the other, and then use you to jump into the main target. Whoa. An actual example was way back, I think about 3 or 4 years ago. I was working with one of my then directors, and we got a call from one of our clients to be. We had been doing some work for the client on some other area, but not in the cybersecurity, side of it. And we got a call from this client that FBI just walked into their office and come to find out that their system or their network is attacking other organizations. So it was unbeknownst to them that they had been breached, and the attacker was using them to actually target the main target. So the thing is, regardless of your size, you don't see yourself as insignificant in a cyber attack world. You are part of the ecosystem. And if the attacker can attack the real target, they will use it to jump in. So don't sell yourself short and say, we are not small, we are not big enough to be a target, because you are, all right? Okay, so now let's say we talked about phishing, you know what it is, you are keen to actually want to have it as part of your program, but what options do you have, right? Well, you can either contract with a third-party consulting company or a professional who can execute the phishing campaign for you for a fee based on the terms and agreement that you iron out with a company to do that for you, either as a part of your regular cybersecurity program, or let's say regular offensive operations such as red teaming or penetration tests. It becomes part of you infuse phishing as part of it. So that is one option. The second option is here in the US, and I'll say maybe most of the advanced countries who are very good with cybersecurity. Now we have organizations that actually specialize in carrying out phishing campaign for companies. All they do is just running phishing campaigns for their clients. Some of them, include KnowBe4, PhishMe, and other companies that you can contract with, and they'll periodically run phishing on your behalf for you. So that is second option. The third option, which is what we're going to be discussing or do today, is let's say you don't have the budget to pay for these ones, but you still want to carry out as part of your yearly or your periodic phishing campaign, but you want to do this on a very tight budget. You don't have the money to pay these third parties or these professionals, but you want to be able to organize your own internal team so you can build your own phishing operation using very little amount of money and open source tools. And that is the main purpose of the discussion. It's a third option, is to equip you with the tool and knowledge that you can run with, that is possible for you as organization, as small as you can, or even if you're a consultant and you want to add this knowledge into your operation, you'll be able to take this discussion and run with it. All right. Okay. So now, before let's assume, okay, so now we have decided to go with running this thing on our own. What are some of the background preparation that we need to make before we even send the first fish out? Because you can't just start running without actually making some preparation or making some considerations. So one of the things that you might want to, some of the things that you might want to, put into consideration is, first of all, let's say you are the director of cybersecurity within your organization, or you're the manager who is in charge of the whole operation. Before we even go into all this thing, kicking off the technical aspect of it, there are things you need to put into consideration. One of them being the fact that you need a permission. So you need to actually sit down with the leadership of the organization and discuss these options and tell them, listen, we run on a small budget. We actually want to run our phishing campaign as part of our awareness program, and then discuss with senior management, and then looks at the ins and out of it, right? So you need a permission. The second one, which is mostly well known here on this side of the world, is sometimes, depending on the content of the phishing, you may actually go against some legal things on the side of your employees. Countries such as, countries in the UK, for instance, are very, very, very strict when it comes to employee privacy and legal matters, right? So even when you run a campaign on a phishing, you might cross the border if you ask for certain information within the campaign, right? So this is where you have to consider your legal teams to actually look into what you want to do and some things you may want to avoid in the whole process of it, right? Now that we have that, we also have to consider about maybe buying a domain name, depending again on the objective that you want to have. As I showed you in that WHO, phishing example, this attacker didn't bother to buy a domain name to make the phishing look like more legit. But in your case, you want to simulate real threat actors who are actually serious about phishing. And in order for you to actually simulate the, such operation, one of the best things for you to do is to actually get a domain name which is close to your company's name. Because again, you want to see how you can beat your own defenses on the network side of it, technically. I'm on a technical side of it. And also, how can you actually make your employees see the reality in how these attackers are actually trying to get into a successful phishing, right? So domain name is one thing that you want to consider buying. The next one is you want to consider, do you want to run this on a cloud, or do you want to run this on your own in-house systems, right? Each have their pros and cons. So that you want to consider that. Again, you also want to consider who are the targets you want to, do you want to run this for the entire organization against all your employees, or do you want to target a specific group of people? Remember we talked about mass spear phishing and also whaling, right? So do you want to do a mass, phishing first and then see how the response comes and then we begin to tweak it in the future? Or do you want to start with a small group of people and then see how that goes, and then in the future maybe making mass, right? So you have to consider those, as well. And another thing you want to consider is the scenario you want to run. Do you want to run, let's say, password reset requirement, or do you want to run something, let's say, hey, we have this new, you know that your employees are very, your employees like this particular brand of food within your organization area during lunchtime, and you want to maybe fish them and say, hey, there is new vendor here who is running a promo for a discount for half off, this kind of thing. So you're going to use that to fish your employees and see if they'll click on a link to maybe get a coupon or something like that, right? So you want to also debate on the scenarios. Usually you may want to have about 3 or 4 scenarios down, so you can maybe later on decide on which ones you want to pick eventually, right? And the next thing is also you want to, again, this all goes back to the legal consideration, is a phishing assessment. You might want to make sure that whatever is contained within your phishing doesn't go against your employees' privacy and confidentiality, stuff like that, right? So those are also some things you want to consider. The biggest of all, which I have actually bolded in it, is this is an awareness. This is not you using the your phishing campaign to judge your employees whether they failed or they passed. If you have that mindset, then you are going to have a terrible one, because I don't think you judge your firewall for failing to catch an attack coming through your network. So you shouldn't judge your employees if they fail for the phishing, but see that as a way for you to enhance your cyber defenses or your security defenses, right? So that is very, very important, because sometimes organizations make a mistake and then, they may look at the result of the phishing and then have a different decision making, right? Okay, so now that we have that out of the picture, the decision has been made, the red tapes have been, you follow all the red tapes, all the paperwork have been signed and all those things. Now you've been given the go ahead, a green light. So you have your team, you have maybe 2 or 3 of your IT cybersecurity guys, in-house, and then you are the director of IT, cybersecurity, or you're the manager, and you sit down with your team, 2 or 3, even one person, and say, okay, we got a green light from senior management. Let's go about, building this campaign. All right. So now we jump into the infrastructure. Okay. And now anyone who has done any live demo in any presentation can tell you that sometimes of course, you do your preparation, you do all your tests, you run your tests so many times to make sure that it works. And then the day that you do the actual presentation, that is where, something goes wrong. All right. So, and people who have been doing presentations or live demos will tell you their stories that one of those things have happened to them before. So what happens is it's always good to actually have a pre-recorded version of your demo, just in case something goes wrong. At least you have a backup for it. So before we go into it, I have a quick video to demonstrate what will be the end product once we are done with this this session. So at least you know that, okay, this is what I'm looking for, that eventually I'll be able to use to run my own phishing campaign in my organization, right? So this is a video of it, a click, very quick click. Let me so this is how one that I have running so far. That is our target user. This is a platform for, I'm running the phishing campaign. So these are some of the information that you have to fill up, and we are going to send out an email to our target. So in this case, we sent it to 2 people as our target. We have Fluffy Wabbit, we have Major Victim, and we send an email out to these people. So Fluffy Wabbit received the email, and as you can see, it's an email to reset their password. They have a link, they click on it, and it takes them to their company's mail site. Now, if you pay attention, this is not the same as that. All right. Now that is where, again, if you can build your phishing campaign right, you succeed, and your employees will see the reality on how attackers can actually breach your organization. So let's say the user clicked in, they submitted, they clicked the link, they submitted their credentials, and as you can see, there are statistics of every action from your users. So let's say you're phishing about 1,000 employees. Each one will have a specific tracker to them. So each activity that they do will be recorded for you. And at the end of the phishing campaign, you can run a report, statistics, and show, okay, who opened the link, who clicked on the link, and who actually submitted data in the process, right? So this is what we end up having at the end of this session, is have a fully grown and fully well developed phishing campaign running for your organization, right? Okay, so now that is out. Oops. Okay. All right, let me just exit so I can come back to full screen. Oh, don't do me like this. Yeah. Talking about demo guards. Look at what they're doing to me right now.
Yes, I was going to remind you that you are talking too much about them.
Yeah, yeah, Charlie. Oh, devil gods. Charlie. But I was able to actually pour some libation for them today. So
They
I'm
are at
hoping
work.
that
They are at work.
I pour some libations. I'm hoping that they will be nice to me. Anyway, so so anyway, so okay, so now that we have a little bit of a demo to see how what we end up having, now let's go into details on how to build the infrastructure. So we decided to pick a domain name. You can use any of these, providers. We have GoDaddy, we have One and One, and a whole bunch of other ones. Namecheap. So again, do your research. Find the ones that would have a better price for you or cheaper price for you. We'll say domain names don't cost too much. So even if we're doing the math right now, let's assume you have assigned $5 to buy a domain name. And honestly, is that cheap? If I was to bring this up, oh, this thing is just if I was to come up, if you go to GoDaddy and let's assume we go to sitecrypt.info is a domain our company's, our target company that want to, take over or perform the phishing campaign is taking, but it's going to give you options. All right. And if you look, these are not like too expensive, and this is actually per year. All right. So as an organization, let's assume maximum you assign $5 for buying a domain name for your phishing campaign, right? And I hope somebody will just begin to write these things down. So at the end of this session, we'll have the budget for this whole thing for us, right? So that is how much it costs. It's very cheap to get yourself a domain name for your phishing campaign, right? So we have that for that. Now you ask me, so how do I pick a domain name? Again, if you go to this site, they'll give you recommendations that will look close to your organization's domain name, because you want to get it very close. You can use tools such as Squat M3, which take advantage of what we call URL squatting. Now, if you don't know about what that means, it's basically flipping domain names or URLs to make it look like a legitimate one. So let's say you have google.com. Squatting can be, let's say, GUOGLE.com, or it can be GUOGLE.com or something like that, just to confuse the users, right? So these are some of the things that you might want to play around with. Again, these things come with experience. The more you do them, the more you become experienced with them, right? All right. So now that is a domain name. So once that we have chosen a domain, the next is we want to go with a cloud provider. We want to get ourselves, cloud, VPS, virtual private, server, right? We have Google, we have AWS, we have Amazon, we have DigitalOcean. These are all vendors that provide cloud infrastructure, again, on a cheap. One of the benefits with having Google, Amazon, AWS is they have a feature called free tier, right? Basically, you can actually have a free server for the first 12 months that you sign up with Amazon, and you can have it for, I think, 750 hours of operation without you paying anything for it, right? So this is a tip that if you want to run your own campaign, you can actually get yourself one or two or three or how many servers you want for cheap or for free using Amazon AWS, right? And for the phishing campaign, we don't really need too much of a horsepower system, right? So for the free tier, for instance, for Ubuntu server, it will give you one CPU and then one memory, 1 gig of memory. That is good enough for you to run your phishing campaign on, okay? Or you can even have 2 or 3 servers, depending. Again, we'll talk about maybe having a second server if you want to do something else in addition to your phishing campaign, right? So let's say you decide to go with Amazon. So far, you have spent just about $5 for your domain name. You are going to get a free server using Amazon for that, right? And then, so once we have decided to go with Amazon and we begin to get our own server, we now want to protect our phishing campaign infrastructure. The worst thing you want to do is having your phishing server or phishing infrastructure being compromised. One thing that Amazon AWS does very well is it uses what we call a security group policy. It essentially acts like a firewall for you. So instead of you going to your server and then manually configuring a firewall to restrict what port numbers can be reached from outsiders or outbound, Amazon can actually help you with that. So it helps you by you selecting some services that you want to be enabled on your server, and then which even IP address you want to be allowed for. So for instance, if you are getting yourself a VPS, which is a Linux box, obviously you need a SSH services running, because that is how you authenticate to it, right? So these are all things that they are drop down menus that you can select which services. And then the good thing is, once you select a specific service, Amazon would actually pick up the default port number for you. Of course, you can change it if you want, but it'll pick it up for you as well. And you can actually provide the source IP address. So when it's 10.10.10 by 0, that means any IP address can connect through SSH to the box. You can add more restriction here. Let's say you want to run anytime that you're running this campaign and accessing the server, you do it from your company's network. So you can actually restrict more restriction by providing your company's public IP address as a range here, so that even if anyone wants to brute force or wants to try to get into your server, without the source IP address being your company's public IP address, is going to deny them access. All right. And of course, you are going to run a phishing campaign, which is going to be on a browser. So you're going to need, have to open HTTPS and HTTP, and also some custom port numbers. Now we are using the phishing platform called GoPhish. By default, the admin portal runs on port 3333. In my case, you can actually try to get your own customized port number for that, and then configure it within the configuration, which we'll discuss that as we go along. Right, so now you can actually set your own port number by selecting custom TCP here, right? So that is another way of you protecting your infrastructure. One more thing that you can also do to protecting your infrastructure is how you authenticate to your SSH server, right? There are several ways. The two most well-known ones are either through username and password to authenticate through SSH to a server, or using public-private key-based authentication. Amazon does a very good very good thing with that as well. It doesn't enable by default using username and password, because that makes it vulnerable, susceptible to password-based attack. Now, when you use the key pair authentication, it uses your private key, which you can create. When you're going through the whole process, you can create a new key and then download into your local machine, and then use that to authenticate to it. The reason why I'm not showing this live is because it will show my username for my Amazon, and I don't trust any one of you people on this call so to do some nasty thing with my account, right? But it's very easy. In fact, it's very easy to walk through. Amazon does a very fantastic job with it. And I'm sure some of you are already aware of how to use AWS to stand up a server. Right, so this is how it would look like once you have created your private key and now you want to connect to your server. This is how you connect to it. So now that we are on this side, let me actually exit out of this so we can actually begin to do things, do the actual demo. So here in my case, I have, oh man, I wish this thing would just go somewhere. Man, is there any way we can, David, did you find a way around this thing? David, are you there? Because this thing keeps popping up, and
Bobby.
Yeah, it keeps popping up and it's interfering. Hide video panel. It keeps popping up, and I wish there's a way that we can hide. Okay. You guys still see me?
Yeah, we can see you.
Okay, good. Okay, I think I found the solution. Okay.
We can see you.
Okay, all right, good.
Yeah, we see you.
All right, good. So in my case, I created a private key and I downloaded it from Amazon, right? And I named it, AMZ and 3.pem, right? So this is how I want to connect to it. The IP, I'll say the fully qualified domain names right now for my Amazon server or the Ubuntu is this one right here, right? And I can connect to it using the private key, and then the username is Ubuntu. And again, Amazon gives you this command line. There's no magic to it. You know, once you start up your server and you want to connect to it, it will actually give you this full command for you to copy and paste it. As long as you run it from within where this file is, it has to be within this file because you're going to call it to authenticate to it. All right. So now we are in on this server. Let me actually move this thing here. All right. So now this is a server that I have fresh server. This is going to be the live demo. All right. One of the things is you want to, like, you know, clean up this server and then make it like usable for us. One of the things is you want to change the host name, because if we do host name right now, this doesn't look good. I mean, this looks not so nice, right? So let's say we want to change the name and then make it GoFish as a server's name, right? So we can do, let me actually copy some of my notes here so I'll make it a lot easier for us. Oops. All right, so we want to change this to GoFish. Essentially, we want to call this server GoFish server so we can, you know, be able to like follow along without using the IP address. And the command that we use is hostname CLT, and then set hostname to that gofish.cycrypt.info. The domain name that I'm using for this demo is cycrypt.info, which I purchased on my own for this test. Oh, come on, you came back again? All right. All right, so now that we have that set up, of course, we also have to make some changes within our host file. Sudo. Oh. All right, so what we're going to have to do is we are going to point the public IP address of our, oh, let me actually get out of this so I can get a public IP address here. So this is our public IP address. So we want to point this to the domain name. All right. Okay, so let me, I hope I copied it. Okay, good. Then we are going to say go fish, got it right? Cycrypt.info. And then let's also delete this. All right, so in this case, we are going to do some DNS entry in our, for our domain, which I'm using 1&1, right? I hope so far we are following. All right, so I'm going to save it. And for this to take effect, if we do hostname.f, now we have the fully qualified domain name as very nice one as opposed to the IP address. Okay, so for it to be able, but we still see the IP address here. So for this to take effect, we need to reboot this machine, which shouldn't take too long, right? Now, whilst that is going on, anyone has any questions so far? So right now, we are preparing our server to run our phishing infrastructure, which is going to be the GoFish. We have purchased a domain name, which is called cycrypt.info. We have also purchased a virtual private server using Amazon AWS, which is going to be for free for us. And now we're running it, but we need to prepare it, you know, set up a host name for the machine. We are going to do some DNS entry stuff for future, so that when we want to send off a phishing, the user will see the domain name as opposed to the IP address, right? Okay. Let's see if it's done rebooting. David, anyone has any question? All right, so now that we have the host name set up, which is very nice, the next end is the GoFish framework was built using some fairly new programming language called Golang. Now, Golang comes from the camp of Google, which developed that, programming language, and is gradually, picking up in, within the cybersecurity community. Okay, if I want to use Amazon server for demo. Yes.
Okay, Kofi, there's a question here.
Yeah.
If I am to use the Amazon server for the demo, will I get the server for free?
Yes, that is exactly what I was saying. As long as, so according to, if you look at the presentation, it says that if you open up Amazon and within the first 12 months, you decide to run a server and you use the free tier version, that is going to be for free within the first 750 hours.
Okay,
So,
but Charles Square said that, but you will need to register with a debit or credit card, even if it's going to be for free.
Of course, they need money from you eventually. But the thing is, you have to be self-disciplined. I mean, these guys are not there for charity work. All right, they still need to make money. The same way with.
You will like free things, so.
No, well, there's no. Yeah, that one is that's a different discussion. Don't get me there. But the whole point is why do you have to provide debit card when you sign up with Play Store, and I think Apple Store or something? You have to provide those information, right? Even if you not purchase anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, they will take the information from you, but the thing is, you have to be disciplined. Also, have to know the terms and conditions. That is why you go there. Don't just stand up any server. Just look for the free ones so that those will be free, and keep track of how many hours are you using. But yes, they will need those information from you.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Good question. So now, so the Goldfish was programmed using the fairly new programming language called Golang. Golang is a new programming language coming from the camp of Google. Some team developed it. It's picking up prominence, especially within the cybersecurity, world. People are now using it. It's becoming like the second Python in cybersecurity. So in order for us to have the Goldfish running, we need to, of course, install Goldfish, and that is not installed by default. When you stand up Linux distribution, the good thing is it's very, very easy to install it. So you can use sudo apt install and Golang. This is what it is, right? And that would install it for you. Now I have it installed already, so that is why it's giving me I have the newest version. Okay, so now that we have that installed, very easy for us to install the Goldfish framework itself, right? So now let me just copy my command so I don't make a mistake or delay you guys. And then I'll walk you through what the command is doing. So essentially, again, this tool is open source. The whole thing here is we're trying to cut back on our budget. We have a very tiny budget. So most other things that we are going to go for are going to be open source, or they're going to be very, very cheap for us, right? So this is on GitHub, and this one is going to download the file for the most recent version of Goldfish, and then get it into our path. So now, oh, you are back.
I'm handling it, don't worry. I don't know why.
Yeah. So now we have downloaded the Goldfish tool or platform on our server, but that is just us getting in there. Now we are going to unzip it, okay? So, oh yeah, I have to install zip. Shoot, I hope it doesn't take too long. All right. My speed is very good here. Okay, all right. So now we can unzip it. All right, so now this is what is contained within the Goldfish file, right? And we are going to work with this. And if you guys can see, we have a config file here, which does most of the work for us. This is the executable, which actually does the actual work for us, okay? So now that we have that done, if we try to run this particular thing is not going to work. We have to make it executable, right? So if I type sudo and then use this, and anyone who attended my, I taught a Linux class in Ghana last year would have understood what these are. Basically, we are making this thing executable by everyone. We're just, modifying the privileges on this file to make it more executable. So as you can see, now it's turned to green, right? So that means we can now run it. But before we do that, let me show you what is contained within. We'll come back to this file. We will control this. As I was telling you, if you remember, I told you the admin portal for Goldfish runs on port 3333. In my case, when I did my configuration, I changed that port to port 8443. All right. So we can make all these changes here, in the future, right? So now that we have this running, so let's test it. If we do this, and that should run for us. It says successful. So now we can try to actually access this, our server, by trying to get to our, let me bring this here, okay. And let me get our public IP address again. Oh, what was it? Let me kill it. And then let me get our public IP address again. All right, so all right, and then let's see. Oh, no, not this. My bad. Okay, yep, so that is working. So that means we have our Goldfish running and listening on port 80 for us. So it's good for us to start going and do some more configuration changes, right? Any question up to this point, please? The reason why I want us to make this interactive and ask more questions or stop in between is I don't want anyone to lose track of what we're doing so far.
Yeah, so we are getting to almost 1 hour now. So if you have any questions, please just open the mic and then ask your questions or contributions. We can make this very interactive.
Yeah. All right, so if you don't have any question, let me kill the server and let's go back and then begin to do some more editing. Okay, so now we want to edit that configuration file, right? And then because when I tried, if you guys remember, when I tried to access it through port 3333, it wasn't open, and it's because it is not open to the world. Okay, so this is how the configuration file looks like. This is the admin portal. And by default, and to protect your server from being exposed to the internet, Goldfish only makes it available locally on your service interface. If you want to be able to expose it to the internet, which you have to be very, very cautious, you need to change the 127.0.0.1 to 0000. Okay. All right, and also change the port number to whatever port number you use for your Amazon server. You remember, I did add a customized port number of port 8443, and this is where it becomes very handy. All right, this is the actual phishing site. I mean, phishing site which we tried to hit, and it was port 80, and we got like 404. Okay, we'll come back to that too. So most of our configurations will happen on this particular file, but I want us to just take step by step, baby steps. Okay, so now if I run it, now that I have it exposed to the internet, and then I do 8443, and if, there you go. Now, all right, bear with me, demo gods. Demo guards. Okay. Don't run because it's not running. Okay, good. And let me run it again. And okay. Okay. So this is how fresh off the boat your fishing, your goldfish looks like. We are now have a working goldfish right now. We can log in with a default credential, which is, I'll provide that, and also it's available on their website. But now we have a working fishing platform for us right now with the goldfish. Any question for me? Okay, so now the next thing is, this doesn't look well. I mean, we are still providing the public IP address here, but we want it to look more legit, right? So now the next step is we are going to have to update our DNS record on our hosting provider. Whether you went for GoDaddy, you went for one-on-one, you have to go in, and basically what you're going to do is you are going to point this public IP address to your host machine, which in this case is going to be gofish.cycrypt.info, so that we can access it through the browser using the fully qualified domain name, which will make it again more legitimate, right? So let me kill it. And I think this one I can show my screen on how you can do this from this is not showing so this is my one-on-one crap. Let me bring it back and let me log in from out of so I can show you guys my So I purchased the domain name cycrypt.info from one-on-one, right? And then once I get into, this is a domain name here, the place that we are most interested in is a DNS record. We are going to essentially, for those who don't understand how these things work when it comes to DNS entry. So let's say when you type google.com, okay, as users, that is easy for us to remember google.com as opposed to 54.102.15. Something like that, right? What happens is the DNS server does the translation for us. The systems understand in numbers. We human beings understand in words, or a lot easier for us, right? So what happens is we have a server called DNS. What the DNS does is when you go to google.com, the DNS looks into its entry and say, okay, google.com is pointed at the IP address 54.something. Then it does the translation for you, right? So that is exactly what we're going to be doing here. Is we are going to enter what we call the A record, which is going to point our IP address to our host name. So here for one-on-one, if you, let's say you purchase your domain name from one-on-one, this is the most easiest way to do is we are going to provide the name of our server. If you remember, we have that here. Okay, and if you also remember, we did provide that within our host file, pointing it to this host name, right? So we are going to say, okay, for Goldfish, whenever somebody is looking for goldfish.cycrypt.com, it can be located at this IP address. Okay, so this is how it's going to look like. So when we type goldfish.cycrypt.info, it is going to resolve to this IP address, which is going to be our, somebody's trying to remote take. Okay. David, have you seen this? We are we have an uninvited guest. Hello, David. All right, let me decline it. Can you guys hear me at least?
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry, my thing was broken.
Yeah,
we can hear you.
Yeah, somebody was trying to take over. Depart.
But is it okay now?
Yeah, it's okay now. I'm just saying that. Oh, oops, wait. All right. So now we have the DNS entry record done for us. So, and I have some old ones here. But let's see. So GoFish points to our public IP address. We should be good to go. And let me get my presentation back. All right. So now if we go here and we start GoFish, and this time we go, instead of going to this IP address, we decide to go to, let's say, GoFish, and please tell me this thing has replicated. Oh, no, not this. And 8443. Okay. All right. So gradually we get in there. So now we have a good URL to use for our phishing campaign, right? Any question with the DNS entry part of the discussion? Nope. All right. Still, there is more work to be done because I don't like this. If you're going to phish your employees and they receive an email, and for most of you, Google, if you use Chrome, it's actually going to give you this red thing that the site is not secure, right? That is not good for phishing campaign, because if you send a phishing to employees and you're asking them for credentials and it's telling them the site is not secure and all those things, you are most likely not going to achieve much more with that, right? So the goal is for us to now going to make this a little bit more appealing by actually getting ourselves a self-signed, getting ourselves a certificate to make our website more legitimate. One tool which has become more prominent is called Let's Encrypt. It's free of charge. That makes your site legitimately signed, so you can actually, go away with this warning here telling you that your site is not secure, right? So let's go back to our server. Let's kill this service. And again, it's very easy. There are so many ways you can get yourself Let's Encrypt. One of them is through certbot, and this is a command to get it. We are going to download a certbot auto and then hit enter. And where is it? We have it here, and we're going to make it executable. Oh, come on, stop playing with me. Okay, it's now executable, and we are going to request a certificate, and I'll walk you through what it's going to do here. This is going to be GoFish. Essentially, we are going to request a certificate to be able to sign this domain for us, and now we're going to use DNS for a challenge, because we need to prove to the certbot or Let's Encrypt that we actually do own this domain, right? And it's going to prompt us for information. All right, so let's go. I hope you're not going. It's going to do some downloading for us, files for us. All right, let me continue. Whilst that is going, I think I saw a chat here. Oh, that was okay. All right. Yeah, I thought you were somebody who was trying to get in without invitation. All right. Okay, so while this is going, again, come on, guys, let's make this more interactive. Are you guys all right with this thing going on?
Yeah, it looks
Okay.
like.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we have the
Good.
Okay, so I now have the necessary tools installed. To build the certificate, ask you some few questions, right? So the first one is asking you for email address. Now that is used for renewal of your certificate in the future. You can provide it with any sort of, any non-existent email address if you don't care. But if you want to have this certificate be renewed for you, you might want to provide it with a good email address. So in this case, let's say I'm going to use helpdesk@cycrypt.info. Okay. All right. The next, it's telling me my email is not legitimate. All right. So let me use this. malicious@gmail. Okay. Why am I getting? All right, let me see. Yeah, there you go. With one of those situations. Actually, let me just use this. I didn't expect this to happen. Guys, let me bring this back up and then let's try it
Okay,
again.
Kofi.
Yes.
So I'll be doing a commercial whilst we try to fix the.
Okay. All right.
All right. So
Yeah.
you stop sharing. Let me do a short commercial. Then you try to figure out the email address.
It shouldn't.
Then we take it from there. Okay. Right.
Giving your child technology skills today means preparing him or her for a brighter tomorrow, because in the near future, computer literacy will be the dominant condition for employment. Start right and let your child be among the group of highly sought after technology professionals. The opportunity is now. Let your child take the leap in learning about computer programming and apply the ability to design websites, design games and cartoons, and understand data science from scratch. Enroll your child in IIPGA's coding and computer programming lessons. The Institute of ICT Professionals Ghana, in partnership with Godi Africa, has been organizing coding or computer programming lessons for students, graduates, and professionals in website design, game and cartoon development, and data science to bridge the skills gap. Visit our website now at www.iipgh.org to register. Call or WhatsApp us on 0242 773762 or 0244 357006. Enroll your child now and put your child on the path to being a part of the change makers of our tomorrow.
All right, David, whenever you're ready, I'm ready.
All right. So, yeah.
Hello, Kofi, I have a question.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yes, so my question is, why are you not using cicrypt.com, the domain, as why are you not mapping this to the IP? Why are you mapping the subdomain, the gofish.cycrypt.com to the IP? Is there any reason?
Yeah, that is what I actually did map it.
Yeah, I said, why are you mapping the subdomain? Why are you not mapping the domain itself directly to the IP?
Yeah. Because I could do it either way. So I could just, so you're right. That's a good question. I could just, I could have just, instead of replacing, I could have just used instead of the go fish for it. But I just decided to go with the domain, the subdomain name, the server's name, so that I can make that the entire domain cycrypt.info available for future use for something else if I wanted to. Because if I point that IP address directly to the entire domain name, then in the future, if I wanted to do it, use it for something else, such as a standard page by itself, then I couldn't use it, or I'll have to go back and then do a whole edit for it. Okay. But that's a good question. You can either use the subdomain name, or you can use the entire domain for it. Honestly, it's good to use a subdomain for it, so you can keep track of which IP address points to what domain subdomain for you. So you can leave your actual your actual domain for something else.
Okay, sorted. Thank you very much.
No problem. Yeah, good. That's a good question. All right. So for some reason, this thing actually works, but it works with a different email address. So let's say if I use help desk at Secret. What did I use first? Yeah, it works. So I don't know why it wasn't working at first. Okay, so yeah, so that is the email. It needs a valid one for it. Of course, you need to agree to the terms and conditions for it. And then would you be willing in your first certificate, successful for you, to share your email address with whoever? You can choose yes or no. So I'll use N for that. And it says, are you okay with your IP being logged? I don't have any option. I mean, yeah, we can say no or yes, but let's say I'll make it yes. It doesn't hurt. So now this is the next question that it wants you to do. For the Let's Encrypt to know that you own the domain itself, you have to pass a challenge, right? It means you have to actually own that domain or the subdomain. So in this case, it's asking me to make a DNS entry with this information. So let me copy that, and then let's go back to our DNS side of cyclip.info, and then click add record, and we are going to select TXT. All right, and then we are going to put this here. And to the question that he asked previously, this is where he was asking. So if I wanted to have this pointed to the domain itself, I'll just use @ and if you can see, it's using the actual domain name, and then I'll put the IP address here. But that is not what I want. You want to be able to keep track of your subsystems using the domain names, or your fully qualified domain name for each IP address. All right, so let me paste this here, and it's asking us to also enter this, the entry for that, and it's going to use that to execute the challenge and response to confirm we actually do own this domain. Okay, so once that is done, I'm going to hit save. And then once that is saved, I'm going to go here and then hit enter to continue, and it's going to do the validation. If it passes, it's going to give me thumbs up. So it's going to tell me that congratulations, the certificate has been assigned to me, and it can be found in this directory. All right, it's etc let's encrypt, and it's going to be 2 of them, right? So now that we have these, we are going to use them to actually update our GoFish configuration. So let me copy this and paste it somewhere so I can use them when we edit our configuration. So now let's go edit the config. So these are the 2 places. So for now, it's asking us, it's telling us the certificate is not well, whatever. We want to make it very, very, legitimate. So now I'm going to use those. Let me copy. I'm going to replace these in GoFish _ admin cert, and then the key with what we got from Let's Encrypt. Okay, so full chain. Oops. All right, so we're going to replace this with a path of where we have our Let's Encrypt full chain. Oops. Okay, and then the same thing with here. And also, I am going to change this port number to 443. This is going to be relevant. So this is where, when we begin to build our campaign, users will be redirected to fetch credentials for us, or to record their activities, right? Okay, so that is for the 4.1. Now let's go and then add in the keys. So these are the private key. And then let me paste it. All right, so this should look all good. And let me save it. Now let's run the server again. And What do you guys see? So now it's telling us that we have a valid certificate signed for us for our phishing platform, right? So which is very, very good, you know, because again, like I said, you want your phishing site to look more legitimate than, you know, some amateur, you know, sort of, you know, phishing site, right? So if we do this, well, this one is not going to load up anytime for now, but at least we can hit our admin, you know, page with it, right? Okay. So now that we have that out of the way, we can now log in, and then you guys will see how this thing looks like. All right. So the default, let me see. The default is admin, and then I'm not going to give you tell you the password, so I don't see any nasty people getting in here. All right. All right. So this is how the platform looks like. Once you have built your infrastructure, you don't have anything here. Everything will look very plain. So we're going to walk through each one of these step by step on how you can actually test to make sure that actually working and sending out emails out, right? So up to this point, any question for me? Okay, so now since you know we're still here, the first thing we want to do is we are going to do what we call the sending profile. Now let me bring back my PowerPoint so I can, you know, explain to you what that is. So essentially, the sending profile is whenever you send any phishing campaign, you need the source email address. So for GoPhish, you need to have a sending profile, which is going to have the email, which is going to be used to send out the phishing to other people, right? So you have to create that within GoPhish to be able to do to be able to send out emails. I don't know what's wrong with my connection today, right? So now when it comes to sending profile, we have several options. You can either use public email address, such as the one that we had from the first email that I showed you from WHO, which the person was using Gmail. You can use the service provider from where you bought your domain name. So in this case, 1&1, you can get yourself an email for just $5 a month. And you know, again, for your campaign, you can just buy it for just one time, or you can actually build your own SMTP server, right? Now that requires some sort of, you know, more work to do if you build your own SMTP server. I built one for this demo, but I'm not, for the sake of time, I'm not going to go through the whole process of how to build one, but there is, you know, very easy for you to build one using open source platforms such as, you know, iRedmail, right? And I'll have those within my slider at the end of the day. You guys can have a copy and then be able to use that. But if you decide to build your own SMTP server, which is going to relay your emails to your victims, there are things you need to understand, you know, because of how, you know, phishing attacks has been going on for so many years. Most companies, or I'll say most email providers or infrastructure, have what we call the email gateway, or they have some techniques or some tools, what, you know, which try to actually make spamming a bit difficult nowadays. You know, some of them is what we call the SPF, and it's a validation process to make sure that the sending server is authorized, you know, to send emails from associated email domains. So let's say you have a server located at gofish.cycrypt.info, and you want to send an email out, and the person's name is helpdesk, you know, helpdesk@cycrypt.info. What the validation process is going to take the person's email address and see if the server is, you know, validated to be able to have that person send your email from that, you know, going out, right? We have DKIM. Again, it's a digital, you know, way for us to also you know, digitally sign the original, you know, server, which in our case is going to be our gofish.cycrypt.info, and then we have the DMARC. So these are things that if you decide to build your own SMTP server, you need to put into consideration, because otherwise your emails might end up in a junk mail, which is going to defeat the whole purpose of it, right? Okay, so in this case, we are going to go with the second option, to make it a lot easier for us, that we will just pay $5. Let's say if you can go with GoFish, or I mean, you can go with GoDaddy or you know, one-on-one, and that should be okay for you, right? So now that we have that, so if we are to go with one-on-one, for instance, right? You click on create, you know, send an account. It has all this information. The only information that is secret here is your username and password. When it comes to the host, what's the SMTP configuration, this is, you know, public information. You can always Google out for one-on-one's SMTP information, and it will just give it to you. So it would need a valid email address, which is linked to your phishing campaign's domain, and then a password, and it will use this user to send out phishing attacks, your phishing emails to all your users, right? Now, once that is done, it would actually allow you to test it. If it actually works, you are able to send an email from that account to some users. So in this case, I was able to send an email to malicious.kofi.gmail.com, and I was able to confirm that this is a test coming from GoFish. So now that you are able to test that, you have a working sending profile, now you'll be able to kick off the rest of your phishing campaign, right? Okay, so again, this is where you can actually build your own SFTP server for those who want to do this on their own. It requires some time to get it to work, but once you have it working, you have more control over your own SFTP server to relay your emails to your victims, right? Okay, and again, these are the options to make it more legitimate using less encrypted, for SSL certificate implementation. All right, so let me get out of here and let's go back in and begin more configurations here. So let's create first sending profile. I'll call it demo. And for this, I'm going to use help desk Cycrypt. Cycrypt.info. And instead of using one-on-one, I'm going to use my own domain that I built, my own SMTP server that I built for this demo. Okay, now before we do that, you remember I told you about the scenario, right? So let's assume that we have set up everything, we have sent out a test email, everything works out. So now we are ready to launch our phishing campaign. Some few tips. Timing does matter when it comes to phishing. Employees are less likely to actually open emails in the afternoon on Friday compared to maybe Monday morning or let's say Tuesday morning. All right, so you need to sit down and understand, okay, at what point or at what times do I think that my employees will check their emails and those kind of things? Then that is when you want to send out your phishing, your phish out to users. All right. So let's say the scenario here is, I think we have a new message. Oh, okay. All right. So the scenario here is we want to target. Come on. We want to target a C-level of your company. Let's say we just want to see if for our first phishing campaign as an organization, I want to see how this plays out. So let me just do it against a small number of people. The target's name is Cycrypt Info, and the scenario is a password reset request, right? So that is how we are going to go with, right? So the first of all is I am going to get out of here and then walk through the technical part of it. All right, so bear with me. And David, if you have if any questions are coming in, please do let me know.
Right, people just want the video, so when we are done, we need to upload on YouTube.
Okay.
Share.
Yeah.
I think people want to take time to digest everything.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Hello, Kofi.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
What do you think of SendGrid?
What is it?
SendGrid. Can it be used like as an SMTP server?
I don't think I've used it before.
Okay.
Have you looked into what it does?
Yeah, it's more as it can be used as an SMTP server also. So you just have to edit your MX record to send it.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. I think I've heard about I've heard about that before. Yeah. Okay. So now we are going to create our sending profile, right? So for mine or for I read mail, it listens on port 465. Now this is my own SMTP server that I built and it's running, right? So and I have the user called helpdesk@cycrypt.info, and I have to provide a password and ignore certificate. And then we can send a test email. Let's say Fluffy. And then this is the email that I want to send to. And let's see, CFO. And let me bring that user's email here so you guys can also see. For now, this is our target user. And man, I have a lot of these things open. All right, so hopefully, so it's sent, email sent. So, and now I can save it. And if I go here, let's refresh, hopefully it came through, yep. So now we can confirm that we have a working SMTP relay working, right? So that is the first step. Okay, so the next.
Yeah, apologies, Kofi.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so in building your own SMTP server, did you have to change anything in your one-on-one account?
Yes, I had to. All right, let me just drop you real quick so you can see what I did. So yeah, this is what I did actually. If you look, I have this pointing to mail, my mail.cycrypt.info, and I had to, where is it? So I had to do the first, the A record. So the A record, yeah, pointing to the public IP address here. All right, so if you can see, it points to here. And then that is how I had to, yeah. So yes, you have to do some entries here. But the thing is, once I have demonstrated how to do the entries for the GoFish platform, it should be a lot easier for you to do the rest for other services. But yes, you're right, you have to. All right, any other question? All right, so the next one is we are going to create the target users. Again, depending on the engagement, you may have a whole lot of people to target. For this particular one, let's assume that we have very specific users, about 5 of them or just 2 of them, to test it out and see, right? The 2 ways you can add users to your GoFish platform. You can import it from a CSV file, or you can add them manually. So let's call this demo targets. And the first user is our first Wabbit, and then his username is this. And that person is CFO, and then we can add it. We have major victim, and victim at cycrypt.info. And that person is the CEO. Again, you remember the target for our scenario, we targeting the C-level officers, right? So you can keep adding, or you can just import them as a CSV file, right? If you have, especially those who do offensive operation for major organizations, you may have hundreds of users to do a mass phishing attack for, and you don't want to enter them manually, right? So once that is done, we're going to click save. So we have the users, saved now. The next thing is we are going to create an email template that, I think people call it format. For those of you who know the Yahoo boys, we call it format. Yeah, so the email template is where you are going to actually tell, design the type of message you want, to carry or want your users to get. you can do this in two ways. You can either create it manually or you can import it from an existing email. So let's say, I think the one that I did 2 years ago with IPGH, I had one for LinkedIn. So you can import an email from your old email, let's say for LinkedIn phishing, and then import it using this import email, and it would automatically pick up everything for you within GoPhish, right? Or you can just create this, manually. So in this case, let's make a manual one, and we can go. There's a few things here how to explain. So the subject is where you want to have something stand out to your users, right? So in this case, let me copy what I wrote down here so I don't have to redo it. I have it as password reset for the email address. GoPhish is so good that there are some ways that if you add some of these keywords, in this brackets, it will pick it up automatically for each of the entries that you have in. So in this case, this is going to pick up the email from the users and groups that we had input in, right? So that's a very good way. So it's going to say password reset for this user. You can pick whatever you want, however way you want it, right? So the next one is, now we are going to have our actual email. I made it very short and quick. Oops, undo. All right, so this is the email I'm going to send out. It's going to say hi, and it's going to pick the person's first name. Again, sometimes, and I know some of you may attest to this, you receive email sometimes and it wouldn't have your name. It's just like a generic one. Again, we are trying to be less of an amateurist. We want to show that we actually mean business with this phishing campaign. So this email will be addressed to each particular person using their own name in it. Again, these are things that you want to do to make sure that your phishing is more appealing to users, right? So we have that. So, hi, the first name, the password for your email address, which is going to pick from the users and group, has expired. Please reset your password here. Now we are going to go here, and we are, come on, I forgot, sorry. Let me, this way, this is better. So I just click on the source, and we are going to add a link here. Okay, so the link is this one right here, and the link is going to go to a page that we are going to let it, pop up once they click on it. It's going to be the target page that we are phishing, right? So let me go ahead and have this up. Oh, bear with me. What did I have it here? All right, so, all right, .url, oops. So again, it's going to pick the URL which we'll provide in our phishing email, and that is going to be whatever you want. It can be just a clickable email, a clickable website, or a website which is going to ask them for credentials, right? So if I click OK, that should be good. And if you can see now, it's not clickable. All right. This is very, very important, because this is where we'll keep track of each user uniquely, so that we'll know how many users did this, how many users did that, right? So each user who is going to take some action is going to have a tracker, linked to their actions, right? Okay. So now I think that is it. So we can save the template. The next one is a landing page, right? The landing page is the actual page that is going to fetch something for us. It's going to be either a web portal. In this case, for our scenario, we are going to actually take a landing page for our client, for our target, for their web mail page. Okay, if we go here, I think, let me see, okay. So this is the, let me log out so you guys will see how the page is. This is the page that we're going to steal. Okay, so when the user clicks on it, they will see exactly this. Okay, so this is the page that I want to have it as a landing page, right? So let's go and click a landing page, and then let's say demo web mail, and then we'll have to click on import. So once we click import, we'll provide it with a page. Let me actually copy it to make it easier. And then import it. GoFish is going to do a very good job. As you guys can see, we have copied the entire site here. It's going to look like the same way that a user will see, but it's going to point to our GoFish website, page, all right? Now, the next thing is, depending on the objective of your assessment, we may want to capture credentials or we may not. Now, this is where I'll caution some of you here. With power comes great responsibility. These tools are made for us to be used in assessing organizations, so we need to think ethically. The bad guys also use it. If you are running an awareness campaign for your organization, there may not be necessary need for you to capture credentials from your users. For us who do offensive operations, sometimes per the rules of engagement, we are supposed to capture credentials and then use those to further breach the organization. If you are an organization and you are running your own phishing campaign, it may not be needed for you to capture your employees' passwords. So just doing capture data alone should be good. But if you want to go further, let's say some of you here may be in the offensive side of operation and you want to do this for your clients, here is where you want to add capture password to the whole process so that when the user enters the username and password, we'll be able to capture that. But I'll provide, again, advice. This is educational material. Please don't abuse it. If you are using this against your employees, my advice, professional advice, is don't capture sensitive information, because by then you have crossed over the intent of your assessment, which, like I said, is just awareness. It's not you going too far with it. All right. So once that is done, we want to also instruct the site. Yes, go ahead.
So if you should not capture passwords,
yes,
what about if the real, bad guy uses the same tool and captures the password? If you are compromised, is it not better for a password to be captured so that you change it?
No, yeah, so that's a good question. But the
We are
thing
in
is,
an organization and there's a drill and you are compromised. So your password should be captured so that you can use the opportunity to even change your password and learn to change your password regularly.
And to add up to that, I think most of the times these target people normally don't even use strong passwords. So in a test environment, at least if you can capture that and then see what kind of password, the format that they're using, I think that will be also.
Yeah, that and you guys make valid, contribution, and you make very, valid case. But what I'm saying is sometimes you don't also trust the other side of the testers as to what they would also do with that. Let's assume, boss, let's be real. You are phishing your CEO and you want to capture his or her credential. You get his or her password. I don't think that's going to look nice with between you and your CEO or your CFO, that kind of thing, right? So again, that is just my advice. What you guys are saying all makes sense. You may even want to use this to showcase that users should actually use, better password, which still defeats the whole process. Will be defeated anyway, because even if it's a strong password, it will still be captured. But capturing those information in some regions in this world may have some legal, implications. That is what I'm saying, because even the strength of a password wouldn't matter here, because even if you use the most strongest password, as long as it's still captured, it is captured. So I'm just saying that be very cautious if you're doing these things as to what information that you collect from your employees and how useful can it be to your cause of your awareness, so it doesn't have any unintended legal implications. That is all.
Yeah, I understand the point. Unless it is sanctioned by management
Yes.
capture the password, it is not necessary to do
Again,
that.
again, this goes back to the beginning. You know, how much work did you sit down with senior management to plan all these things? You know, have your legal team involved in it to make sure that nothing is done unintentional, that kind of thing, right? So yeah, again, it goes back to planning. But you guys, all of you make like very, you know, very valid, you know, points. So now this is the page that the user will see when they click on the link that we had from our email template. So I hope you guys are following along with this whole process. I know it can be so much to consume, and that is why we'll have this. I will have this also on my YouTube channel that you guys can replay, you know, replay this in your own, you know, within your test environment. Okay. Okay. So the next one is the redirect to. Here is another thing that you can do, and another thing, you know, so talking about all this password thing is, this is where when the user clicks on login, once they have submitted the username and password, where do you want to direct them to? What I have seen with some companies is they would actually stand up another web page, and going to the question that you asked me about, why did I point the public IP address to the host name as opposed to the domain name? This is where it becomes more sensible. You may want to use your actual domain name to stand up, let's say, a one static page, which will just give a message to users, say, this was a phishing campaign, please next time be informed before you click on link, something like that. So this is where it becomes useful that, okay, with your cyclic.info is now available, you want to stand up, let's say, a static page of educational thing, which is going to, once the user clicks on the login, is going to direct them to, let's say, HTTPS, you know, cyclic.com, which is going to have a landing page, just one page saying, this was a phishing exercise. Please be aware that in the future, when you see a link, be very, you know, informative before you click on a link. So that is what this redirect does. And if you see in my video that I played, you know, previously, when the user clicked on a login, it took them to google.com. That was intentional. So this is where it happens. So I would say, yeah, if they, you know, once they click on go, let me actually take IPGH. Is that right, David? IPG.org. David?
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Okay. All right. So that means when the user clicks on the link, it will take them to IPGA.org. Okay.
Yeah.
We good? All right. So now that we're done, so we have, as you guys can see, we have gone through the users and groups. We have two users who are our targets. We created our format, which is our template. We have a landing page, which is the page that we are actually phishing. It can be any site. It doesn't have to be what I just picked up. This is just an example. Let's say you may have, let's say OWA. Let's say OWA. OWA is a Microsoft online web, you know, mail. So you can copy that. It can be just a static page with a clickable link in it. Whatever it is, that is going to be your landing page. Okay, we have created a sending, you know, profile, which is an email address. I mean, the email, the person will be sending an email to all the users. It's working. Now we are going to go into the actual campaign. This is how we create a new campaign. So we click on that. We can call it demo campaign. All right, and then we have the template. We have that. So this is just going to use everything that we have done so far to populate, to create the campaign for us. If you have more than one template, which you can have, if we do like offensive operation, we will usually have more than one template for specific scenarios. You can have up to 10 or whatever you want, right? So you select which template you want. And then the landing page, again, can be so many landing pages that you can have, right? Again, if you're doing phishing, I would advise you, if you want to create more landing pages, that is also very good. So you can pick and choose which ones you want to use. Let's say you sent out one phishing campaign that had your webmail and the users became aware. You can have a backup landing page for another test, which you can send out to users as well. This is the URL, the URL for the GoPhish server, which is listening on port 443. Okay, so we had that here, and I called it Go fish. Yep. .secret.info. Yep. And as you guys can see, this is actually like, this is not the port 8443. This is the actual 443. All right. If you look at the configuration files, we had two port numbers, right? Okay. The sending, profile we have as a demo. The group, we have the targets, and then that is all that we need. And if you want, we can just send emails by that kind of thing, right? So now we can click on launch, and then the campaign is out. It will just take you here to the page where we have the statistics. We sent it to 2 users. None has opened it, none has clicked anything, none has submitted any data. Okay, so we sent it out, and now you are the cybersecurity guy within the organization. You are going to keep track as the results come in. Again, this is just a demo, so it's only 2 users. You can have as many as 100, 200, 1,000, depending on the size of your organization and how many people you're targeting for the phishing. Okay, any question for me here?
How do you set this up without people knowing?
Well,
because you said you need to get management approval. And
yes.
Management is supposed to be part of the target.
Well, so that's what I'm saying. It depends on who is going to be your target, right? Even if management is going to be part of the target, you have to be selective. So let's say during the beginning, we knew that this was going to be for the C level. Of course, the only person who might be knowledgeable about it may be the director of IT, cybersecurity, and then his or her team. Okay, and then maybe the CEO, because at the end of the day, he or she will be the one who is in charge of the entire organization. So you can cut out the rest of the C-level officers from the whole operation. So this is where you play in that factor and say, okay, what are we going to do for this phishing? If we were going to target the C-level, then we're going to limit people who are going to know about this to only maybe 1 or 2 people. Maybe the leader of the legal team and the CEO, and then the rest of them, the CFO, the CIS, all the other ones will be left. Yeah.
COVID, these open source tools, they are very dangerous because, from where I sit now, it means that after this, and if any bad guy from the Yahoo group or the Sakawa group gets this, they can set it up and then get any company.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that these tools are made. So this has been a heated argument within the cybersecurity that making these tools freely available, are they helping or they are hurting? And it's something that I couldn't give you straight answer because it's a double.
It's more like everybody must know, every organization must go to the drill over and over again. Yeah. So that even if the bad guys want to use it, you will be able to, avoid them.
Yeah, 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 and you're right. You're right.
This is a debate. This is a debate. It will take the rest of the year to.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's true. And David, you have a very good. What you're saying is true, and it has come to a very huge argument lately that it's sharing hurting, or is sharing leading to more breaches, and making tools freely available leading to breaches, or they are helping with more research and and development. And it's something that like he said, it's going to take like forever for us to have a discussion on. So if the bad guys are using it, then you have to keep using it too, to your advantage.
From the point of view, the bad guys are using it anyway.
We are looking at the good side.
Yes, we're looking at the good side. Yeah.
Yeah, and the bad guys are using it anyway. So
yes, exactly.
If we can use it and then we can set up our system to detect it, we'll be in a better position than being in the dark.
No, as he said, you're using this for awareness. So you just tell them to be more cautious in terms of clicking links and accessing some of these sites,
Yep.
And also to be sure of the URL anytime that they're using it and all that,
Yep.
Actually, my point is that if this is available like this for anybody to set up, then the campaign to get companies and organizations, no matter how small or big, should be massive so that everybody is aware. You know, because if this gets into the hands of people who are already doing it and can even capture passwords, it means that those who are in corporate organizations must be one step ahead by knowing some of these things and not clicking on this. Look, if you take this thing to any organization now, you get a lot of people.
Yep. Even
yeah,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's the whole point, David. That's the whole point why these tools are there.
Well,
to let the
I
security
see
practitioners,
this to be good for
understand
us.
it and apply it in their systems, in their organizations. You know, to find people who are not aware about these phishing things. I mean, they get to understand, and then you teach them how to find out. You know.
Yeah, Charles, I agree. You know,
David,
we've been doing a lot of cybersecurity awareness, but it has not gotten to the level where you know awareness where you go where they show you slides and then you just walk away and say, "Oh, Charlie, you have to be careful."
Yeah.
But this one is at a different level, which means that if these drills are not going on in organizations, then we are already compromised long ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hello.
David.
Yeah.
Do
you know that this week I got one in my IPGH mail, and I even called Kafu to find out if he had gotten something like that.
Well, me,
just this week.
My default posture is I don't click anything that comes to my email.
Well, for me, I see this platform for us. I mean, as getting to listen to our resource person is good for us. Looking at the time that he took to set it up, and if we are to use this as drills in our workplace, it will be a great tool for us. With the limited sources, limited resources that we have, you know, we can just do this within a small budget and still achieve great results, which management, I'm sure, will appreciate.
And that is the whole purpose of this talk. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
This is some $12 exercise, so.
Yeah, usually the normal, as somebody put it, PowerPoint presentation. If you really want to measure the effectiveness of the awareness that you have carried out with a PowerPoint presentation, that is when you carry out this exercise. So yes, it may not be common with most organizations, but actually the big ones is happening once a year. Some of these things are carried out to assess the effectiveness of the awareness being carried out.
Yes, and you're right. And that is why sometimes the reason why some of these smaller organizations may not be able to carry these is because the bigger ones have the resources and money and budget to hire external consultants to run for them. And that is why we want to use this. I wanted to use this webinar to give the smaller organizations the weapons and tools to do these things on their own if they can't afford to hire external people to come do for them. Because like I said, right now, if we are being frank, and if somebody was keeping track of the cost here, at this point, we haven't even spent more than $20. We haven't. Let's say you bought your domain for $5. You got yourself a free server, or service from Amazon, $5 for the email, from your domain provider. That's $10, and then the rest are just open source tools, right? So so that is why we want to use
$10.
What was that? Yeah, so that is why we want to provide this, and also talk, going back to what David said, most of these presentations are PowerPoint based, and David knows me, and anyone who is on this call, Charles will attest to you. The PowerPoints have been done by so many people by so many times that I don't want to add to that stack, so when we do presentation, all those things, I'm much more interested in doing some things like this, so it can be more eye-opening and then add on to the PowerPoints they have seen somewhere else to add more power to those PowerPoint previously. And that is why I wanted to do this in a live demo so that they will see that, okay, This is not a typical PowerPoint, but it's going to be more technical, and it's going to be something that if you pick up this video from anywhere, you can sit down and then run your own phishing campaign from A to Z without having to consult anybody else. So, and I'm hoping that this is going to be helpful. It's not easy. Some of you may see this as being easy, doing this like live demo like this. You have no idea how much work I had to do at the background to make sure that it doesn't mess up when I'm doing the live video. So I hope it becomes very useful to most of us. But most of all of you have great points. The bad guys are using it anyway. So why don't you use it if you're a small organization and you can hire me or any other organization to come and do it for you? Here is your chance for you to actually use your resources to do this. And this can just take 1 or 2 people to do it for you, within your organization. It doesn't matter how big, your team is. One person can actually do this on their own.
In addition, I think even if this is commercialized, assuming the argument is that it should not be freely available. Trust me, the small to medium businesses will not be able to afford whatever commercial price will be tagged on it. However, the bad guys, no matter what, will be able to afford it. Yep. So for me, it being freely available for us to use to support businesses or organizations is general. For me, I will always support that.
Yeah. So yeah, let's go back and let's get this campaign running. So as you guys can see, our targets got the email, right? So if you go back and you look at the email template, let's go back so you see how things are playing. So it says password reset for this email. It picked it up automatically because we assigned this here within the bracket, so it automatically pick it for us for each user. And then of course the first name here, the user, and then we have all of them here. We have the link here. If you highlight on it, instead of the link, if you look at the left, I don't know if you guys can see the left bottom, you see is gofish.cycrypt.info as opposed to their email here, right? So if they click on it, oh, come on. Finally, they go there. The demo guys got me now.
You have to pour libation.
I don't know what happened, man. Let me see. I should have worked. Anyway, this was the video that I played, and I'm glad I was able to go through the entire session because I knew something like this would happen. But if you guys will remember, no, I'm not allowing this demo guys. I poured a libation, David. Otherwise, I'll need my money back. Because so let me see.
Libation given to the gods is not taken back, man.
No, I'll need my money back because I told them I wanted this demo to go, without any problem.
And
so
they agreed.
Oh yeah.
The gods are corrupt.
Yeah, no, I know why. I know how to turn this to true. Yep. It wasn't the God's fault. It was my stupidity. So it wasn't the God's fault. It was my stupidity. So let me come on. All right. So let me go back. All right. Come on.
Hello, hi, Kofi.
Yes, go ahead, please.
So first of all, I just want to say very good job so far. Fantastic presentation.
Mm-hmm.
So two things I want to add. First thing first, it's always a good practice to change the default username and password for GoFish.
Oh yeah.
Because I've seen situations where
somebody got Yeah, go ahead. I think somebody messed me up.
I've seen situations where companies send me an email. There was one place I used to work that they send a phishing email, and me in a curious mind, I was able to actually get down to the GoFish landing page, and they were using the default password, and I was able to
Good point.
Yeah,
I was going to say that. I think one of you did it. Somebody got in because I can't go. I take it back. Go.
No, I think you made the pass. So then the second thing I also wanted to add is when the link that you use is always good. I think if you can put a short URL, because if you hover around it, it kind of tells you the direct link, and that makes you more suspicious. But when you add a short URL to it, you might not be able to tell what link it is exactly. So
Okay,
it's another way of hiding.
You see, yeah, you're making a good point. So the problem here is sometimes short link can also take away the it may put off somebody from clicking on it, as opposed to them seeing that. Now, let me take this back. I could have just made this the actual link, which I could have just typed this as https /mail.gofish.info, and then highlight it. I could have made this any way that I want. But to your point, yes, you're making a good point over there. But what I have seen is sometimes users, if you send a user and it's not the actual URL that they are used to, and it's a tiny URL, you might lose some users in the process. I don't know if I'm addressing, I'm responding to your question right. I mean, your contribution right.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
Yes. Can we also use a tab? I mean, a button or something
for
within the email.
Oh yeah, there are so many ways. So let me make this clear. This is just a demo, trust me, and I'm glad you guys are asking us these questions. So this is where you can take it and then go and explore, because I'm just using a vanilla Go Fish and then making this very quick. Once you guys are thinking very right, and I like that the way you're thinking is you need to think about going beyond this video and explore more options. In fact, I would advise you to actually build your own SMTP server using the open source like iRed Mail, and then see how you can even save more money, because you can save money by not paying the $5 to GoDaddy or one-on-one, and then build your own SMTP server using open source tool and free server from Amazon. So everything here, all these questions that you guys are asking are all possible. Just that I'm just doing a vanilla presentation. I only had 2 hours, and I wasn't going to go deep into how to do all these things. So the imagination is like, you can do a whole lot of things with it. Yeah.
Great.
All right. So as you guys can see, now I got my senses back. So you click on a link, and again, if you can see, it is different from this is actually going to go to the gofish.cyclip, but it looks exactly like the mail.cyclip.info, right? So let's say the user enters in, and this is where I was telling you that the strength of a password wouldn't necessarily matter here. So they type in, and
it's gonna capture everything anyway.
Yes. So you see, David. So you see, it brought the user to this page, like I told you, right? So again, depending on the purpose of the your awareness, you can create a customized page whereby when the user clicks on a link, it will take them to your company's main website or your phishing, another page that would educate users and say, hey, listen, this was a phishing test. Don't share, with any other, employees, but in the future, be aware before you click on a link. All right. So now let's say you are the one who is running this campaign. You go to your dashboard. Now you are ready to review some, information or statistics. And as you can see, now we have seen an action from one of the users. They opened the link, clicked on it, and then submitted information. And then down here, we are going to see the details of it. Where is it? Review it. Where are my users? Oh, it's still running. You can actually go to the statistics. You can actually export it in a CVS. You can, complete it, or you can delete it once you're done, right? And then you can go down here, and for each user, you will begin to get information. Now, again, if it's not necessary to collect credentials, don't. But look at the sheer amount of information that is actually gained from the user by just clicking on the link. Sometimes when attackers are sending out phishing, they may have different reasons. They may not even be collecting anything. They just want to gather intelligence about the target's environment. such as the version of Windows you're running, the version of the application you're running. So let's say there's a vulnerability for Firefox, 6.0. Now they can go back and then find if there's any public exploit for it, and then develop another phishing campaign, and then targeting specifically to this version of application or the version of the OS. So even if they're not getting credentials or anything from the users, by clicking on the link, you may be giving them extra information for them to come back, go sit back, do another, write something, get some things, together, and then send out another phishing attack specifically for this particular, application or the environment. Okay, and of course you can click on the link for more details. And like I said, the password can be as secure as anything. This will render it useless. Right. So that is it, and I'm glad that I got this running successfully without any any glitch. Any question before we wrap up?
Hello, Kofi.
For the second user, can we
go ahead, please?
For the second user, can we just open the email and see what statistics you call it?
Oh, you mean okay, you mean the victim account?
Yes.
Okay, let me log that out. You want me to open it from somewhere else? I could give somebody the credentials. I mean, these are
No. You send the campaign to 2 people, right?
Yes.
The first one you click and submitted the credential.
Yes.
What are
you broke? Hello.
I want to see is in the second instance. Sorry. If the person hello.
Yes, I'm here.
Hello.
You went off briefly, so
you went off briefly, yeah.
Okay, sorry. I was saying just opening the email, nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
Can we see what the statistics?
Yeah.
How do you call it? The Apple collect, yeah.
Yeah. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. So that's a user here. Major victim. Yes.
Okay.
The reason why nothing happened is, and this is one of those controls that most email clients are now, putting in place. Like I said, most companies are putting in, or most application developers are putting in so many controls to help, curtail these phishing campaigns. Is some of the things is like, protecting remote resource being blocked, those kind of things. So these are things that are put in place to reduce the success rate for phishing, for phishing campaign. But just opening it may not fire anything. Now that doesn't guarantee that it is always true. Attackers always come up with different tool techniques that, if that even just by opening it can send something out to them. So I wouldn't necessarily rely too much on the fact that I didn't open it. Doesn't mean that there's nothing wrong.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, Kofi, from a layman point of view, you see that this one is an intended campaign that is being done internally, maybe for an organization. So the process might be known maybe by directors or whoever, as you talked about earlier. But in the case of a bad guy trying to, from the source, you realize that the 2 emails you inputted in yourself, right? Which is from the same organization. But from the process, the beginning of the process, how does this bad guy get the list of the emails in the first place, which had to do with, let's say, targeted organization before going through the process?
So many places.
You can use social engineering to achieve that. You can. I mean, most company websites have their top management in it, and they also have a way of having their emails, configured. So you can just assume and try a whole lot of it.
Hello. I think I should come in here. Basically, with the question with the asked was, how do they get these emails? So what an attacker really needs to do is just get one person's email.
Are you guys watching? Are you guys watching?
Yes, yes.
I just showed you one of the easiest way. But yeah, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Yeah. So just knowing one person's email alone can make me know the entire organization's email. So as Kofi has gone to Hunters.io, from Hunters.io, I already know if they're using the first name or last name, or they're using the first letter and last name. So from there, I can easily go to sites like LinkedIn.com and scrape everybody in the organization, the first name or their last name, and append it to the organization's domain. And that's the end. I have everybody's email address. Simple.
Yeah. So and thank you guys. You guys actually solved my you've answered for me. Yeah, but yeah, when it comes to getting email addresses, yeah, that is easy. There are so many resources out there that makes it very easier for you to get all those information. Again, it comes down to what we call, intelligence gathering and reconnaissance. If you're a bad guy or offensive operators like us who do this for a living, that is one of the things that we do initially, is to get more intelligence about the organization, and that includes going out and looking out for usernames, the naming convention, the email format, or the leadership teams. These are all things, it's beyond this discussion, but it's part of a work that we actually do intensive when we are acting like the bad guy, is getting more intelligence about the organization. And getting email addresses is one of the most easiest way to get when it comes to the bad guys.
Okay, thank you so much, Kofi.
No problem. All right. So yeah, good.
Yeah, any more questions, or are we wrapping up?
We are about to wrap up right now. So all right. So let me bring this up. So yeah, so basically, again, did I show you guys how to end it? I think, yeah, it's very intuitive. So let's say you're done with your campaign. You can just end it by just going to, going back to your question. So when I enabled that feature within I read mail, can you see that now it's telling me that the email is open? Whoever was asking me that question. So it was a feature,
yes.
which was it's a feature built into most email clients, that it doesn't fetch remote resources, because those are the ones which are used to track your activities, right? So most of you will receive emails and will tell you, this thing is requesting a remote resource to be downloaded. Should you enable or disable? Yeah. So when you enable it, that is where whichever tool is using to track, you can track and say, okay, these are the actions. All right. Yeah. Okay. So so once we're done, we can just click on a complete, and that should complete it. Completed campaign. We can go and then export the results of it, and then you can take it to your senior leadership, and then sit down for the next phase of the entire assessment, and that is meeting up with senior management, and then basically going through and say, okay, this is what we did. We need a feedback of how did it go. You review the results with senior management. You want to see, again, among yourself as a team, let's say this was your first phishing campaign. Of course, you may see some one or two things which didn't go right, or some one or two things which were very good, or some ideas to improve upon it, right? And then we go into the actual main thing, is the measure of the campaign. Again, the campaign is for you to assess your employee susceptibility to phishing attacks. It's not for you to judge who passed or failed, right? So this is where you get more value for the whole program. And you also want to keep checking yourself as if your domain name is being used for any phishing campaign. In my case, I used a site called DNS Twist, and checked out Cycrypt.com, which is my actual company's domain name. And look at what somebody did here. If you guys can see, it's going to give you all the domain names which have been registered, both your valid ones and the ones which are being used for phishing. So this will be a very good place for you to actually start off and check your own domain name and see if somebody's using it, using some of your domain structure for phishing. Because as I'm looking, this is cyk.rypt.com. and it's being used by someone in Germany. This one is bits, squatting, as I told you at the beginning. They're using CY, CRYPT, as opposed to my own, which is CYKRPT. So these are things that you might also want to do, and then check your own domain. All right. And
so there's a question whether would the slide be available?
Yeah, I can make the slide available. I'll give it to you, David.
All those registered.
Yeah, I'll give it to you.
We'll send it to them by email.
Yeah.
Registered for this webinar, and then it's easy to share with you by email.
Yeah. All right. That is all that I have for you guys. I have some references again, which will guide you through the whole process. Building your own. I hope this has been useful to some of you on this call.
Yeah. Very useful. Thank you very much. I don't know whether we still have some questions, but this is really good. This is an eye opener. I feel confident. I'm not a cybersecurity expert, but I can actually set up my own phishing campaign.
Yeah, please don't tell me we didn't record it.
Please, how do you get your YouTube
David
URL?
Oh yeah, so let me type it. No, man, Zoom. I'm going to kill Zoom. Look, I thought I clicked record, but it's not. I don't see a place not to to turn it off.
No, it's recording. It's recording.
It is recording. Okay. Oh man, Go ahead.
David. Yeah, I'm here.
I think David, you can stop recording now, since the rest I think is just going to be
okay.
Some of you want my YouTube thing. Let me